come forward.
My name is Regina Mitchell, and I live at 731 North Janal Circle. So the whole, I don't want to cry. The whole reason that my husband and I moved into the neighborhood is because we drove around the neighborhood and everyone waved, you know, like we lived in the country or something. We would drive down the street and everyone was, they didn't even know us, but they would wave. I've seen many of these people walking their dogs. I've walked my kid down the neighborhood. When we first moved in, we had a little blue car, and I met the Tolleses and his wife, Linda. And when this started to happen, my son came home with this cup from school, and it says, brush up with just one cup. So they're telling the students at school that this is the only amount of water that they should be using to brush their teeth with. So my concern is if they're telling the students that this is all they can use to brush their teeth, what's going to happen when they build all of these new houses in our neighborhood? No one's talked about water usage. I did hear somebody say something about utilities, but nobody is saying anything. You know, we're in a desert. Everyone talks about how we don't have enough water as it is, but everyone's wanting to build more houses. So how is that going to affect our water and our water usage? You know, they're teaching our kids that this is it. This is what they get to use. You know, are they going to start telling our kids that they only can use half of a cup to brush their teeth? Well, you know, but they're going to build more houses. I just don't understand that. So I completely agree. Like, I don't mind him selling his home. It's his home. I wouldn't want somebody to tell me what I can do with my home. But building that many houses is ridiculous compared to on either side of them, there's 16, 19. On the other side, there's only 13. But you want to build 25 houses in there? I just feel that that's ridiculous. So thanks for letting me share.
Okay, thank you. With that, I'm going to ask the applicant to come forward and make your statement.
Thank you, Mr. Mazzocco. Where to start? So I guess I can take it from the top here. I'll start by saying, you know, we're in a housing crisis. We need housing, and that's been, you know, across the board in Pima County, City of Tucson, Marana. We've had a number of housing studies that have revealed, and not even here, just locally, but it's nationwide, that we need more homes built. And quite frankly, you know, when I hear concerns about, you know, this many homes or a difference between 25 and 20, I fail to understand where that's a major impact, because 20 homes versus 25 homes is not a big increase in density. Let's remember as well that the homes that were built all around here were built decades ago. The Janal subdivision was built 50 years ago. So 16 homes 50 years ago. Then in 1988, they built the Eastwood subdivision on the east side of us with 19 homes. What happened? They increased the density. Now here we are 40 years later, and we're requesting an additional 6 homes beyond any of the subdivisions that are around us. Meanwhile, there's been 19 homes surrounding this property for the better part of a century almost. So I struggle with, you know, it's going to make a major impact of having 25 versus 20 homes, which has been requested in the petition. And to get to Mr. Tolles's comment about me mischaracterizing something when I made my first comments, what I said was that the request in the petition were never shared with us, were never brought to us. So the request for, you know, no construction music, defined construction hours, 6-foot wall on the east and west sides. None of those were ever shared with us. That's what I meant, and that's what I stated actually. So I just wanted to get that clear on the record there. Also want to get clear on the record that the Cantano East Area Plan does not define R1 as low density. And protecting established neighborhoods means building something that is a similar character. These are detached single-family homes. It is a similar character to what exists in the neighborhood. I recognize the concern about 2 stories. That's why since the beginning of this process, we have tried to mitigate any concerns about 2-story homes, limiting the total number of potential homes to 6 homes. Providing the restrictions on balconies and clear story windows and so forth. Those were all made to address this concern of verticality that, as I mentioned, does exist in the neighborhood, isn't blocks away, as was mentioned by Mr. Tolis. The Rosewood, they're on Jasmine, and they are on Jasmine to the east of us in the Rosewood Place subdivision, which is 650 feet away. That is not blocks away, okay? That is less than a quarter-mile walking distance away. So there are 2-story homes in the neighborhood. There is that verticality. There's been some discussion about the eastern boundary and the vegetation along there, and the creation of a no man's land. Well, right now, there's already a no man's land because there's the backyard walls from the Eastwood subdivision, and then there's a chain link fence or a barbed wire fence on this property that effectively creates a corridor in between Mr. Murdoch's property and the Eastwood subdivision. That corridor will continue to be there in the future. And there was a question about the drainage basins. Who will maintain those? Will they collect debris, or will they be breeding grounds for mosquitoes? And these will be designed to City of Tucson standards. They will be designed to accommodate the flow, the volume that is falling on this property and the runoff that is traveling north. As has been said, the property does dip down towards Rosewood. Now, those drainage basins are not going to be something that just gets built and sits there. It will be maintained by the HOA of this subdivision. And so it will not be something that just becomes an eyesore or some sort of attractive nuisance. And there was a question about how do we know there's enough water? We know there's enough water because Tucson Water has an assured water supply. They have responded back to our request that they're willing to serve the property. We've been in contact with them about, there's actually an existing easement for utilities for the water line that serves Mr. Murdoch's property along the east boundary. That would be abandoned and moved to the middle of the property. So we've been in contact with Tucson Water. We know that there's capacity for this project. We know there's roadway capacity. Again, we understand that there are concerns about a few more homes within this subdivision versus the others. But at the end of the day, we're talking about 5 homes above what's being asked for in this petition. And ultimately, as I've mentioned in the past meetings that we've had, 20 homes is taking this property into a state that it may not be marketable. It may not be something that Mr. Murdoch can make a sale to a builder on. And so I understand that there's this request or this desire to have fewer in line with something that was built 40 or 50 years ago. But now here we are in a housing crisis, in a time where we can craft conditions to ensure that we maintain the character of the neighborhood, that we don't impact property values for adjacent properties. That's what we're proposing here. And ultimately, as I said, we are committed to still adding that additional condition language to ensure that it's tied down. It's a potential for up to 6 homes. It may be 5, it could be 3, it could be none, if everybody decides that they prefer to have a single-story home when they come and purchase one here. With that, I would open it up to any last questions that you have.
So just to be clear, the folks in the area, the neighbors in the area, say they could be, at least some of them will be supportive of 20 units, 1-story zoned R1. Is it clear that your client would not find that acceptable?
That is correct, Mr. Mazzacco. Our client would not find that acceptable, 20 homes.
And
R1. Yeah.
Right. And as far as height, he wants at least 6 units to be available for 2-story.
That's correct, yes.
And those 2 stories on any lot, they would have approximately a 30-foot setback to the property line. And they would also have window treatments, so they're translucent but not see-through windows where they face the rear yard and the side yards.
That is correct, except the 2-story homes, if there were a 2-story home, it would have more like a 50-foot setback to the property line.
A 2-story home would have a 50-foot setback to its own property line.
That's correct, yeah.
Okay. Okay, I don't think I have any more questions.
Thank you.
Okay, well, with that, it is now 9:14. And as I said, I will prepare a preliminary report and I will deliver that within 5 days. I think I have heard it all at this point. I know you probably have some counter statements you want to make to him, and I get it, but there's on the record now, and I know what you're coming from, and anything you tell me is not going to be really new to me at this point. So at 9:15 p.m., I'm going to close the public hearing. Thank you all for coming. Hold on.